What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream today. Today we're going to be talking about how to trade trends, the secret to trading trends using trend lines and trend channels. But more specifically, we're going to be talking about dynamic supports. And so in the last webinar that we did, or the live series that we did, we talked about how to trade supports and resistances. About 8,000 of you guys watched that, so I appreciate all the support on that video. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of that. And on my last video that I just did, I published recently, I talked about the volume monitor that I use to trade altcoins. Right now it looks like we've got about 100 people in. Can you guys just hit, I can hear you, I can see you in the chat. Looks like Edward Park is in here, Twins Turbo, Wook Chewy, Johnny Bull XRP. Yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me okay. Make sure my volume's good. You guys can see everything that's going on. So, looking at the chat. What's up, Kavish? Good to see you, man. Okay, so, okay, everyone can hear me. Perfect. Janice can hear me. Zakaria, Kavish, my dodo. Brandon, what's up? Oric, Garrett Lucas, Quinny. What's up, guys? All right, so today's going to be a really good video because there's a lot of trending assets. So we're going to talk about a lot of things when it comes to trends. And the big thing with trends in crypto is a lot of times things can move in three different types of markets. They can move in an uptrend, a downtrend, but also in a sideways trend. So we're going to talk about how to trade the different types of trends. What are some key moving averages or exponential moving averages that I use in my personal trading that has made me a lot of money? And so I hope that you guys get a lot out of this. And if you have any questions, throw it in the chat. I'm going to be going through. I do have some moderators in there, but just so you know, we will, I'll go through all that. So, all right. So welcome to the stream. About 100 of you guys on. You've already hit 23 likes. I appreciate it. If you hit that like button, you get +1 karma point. All right. So let's just jump right in. So secret to trading trends with trend lines. And I'll just be honest. There's not a huge secret here, except to wait for the trends to occur. I just tweeted something out the other day. Geniuses wait for bull markets. And the reason why is because everyone is a genius in a bull market. So what that translates to is, why not wait for a trend? Why not wait for the uptrend? Why not wait for the downtrend to short? Instead, people are trying to trade really choppy markets where they're all sideways and people just get wrecked trading because they just don't have the patience to wait for the easy times to trade, right? If everyone is a genius in a bull market, just why not wait for that type of market? Don't make trading more complicated or harder than it has to be. The only person that you're trading against is yourself, right? I mean, yes, you're trading against all the other traders in the market, but for the most part, if you can make it really easy on yourself, then why not, right? You're just going to make more money. You're going to have higher win rate. You're going to have higher RR. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how to use trend trading to make your trading easier and how to make more money with trading. So let's get into it. So first off, let me take off my, all right, there we go. I did that last time. All right, so what are we going to learn today? We're going to talk about what trend lines are, what trend channels are, what dynamic support and resistances are, how to trade them, and then we're going to do a live Q&A at the end. And I will take a few requests at the end where we can talk about trends and we can, analyze them, talk about where we'd buy them. But so why trend trading? Well, some of the best trend traders in the world, Jesse Livermore, Ed Secoda, Richard Dennis, these guys made hundreds of millions of dollars by trading trends. And I myself have made 7 figures plus trading trends. And so they are the easiest to trade. You can get the highest win rate out of them. They have the best risk reward. They have super easy invalidation levels, and they're easy to identify with long-term trends. So once you get, once you do this on the trend, then it's easy to identify that you're starting into a long-term trend. And I'll even go through some traditional market stuff, basically things that'll blow your mind on how easy it is to trade traditional markets if you just watch for higher time frames. So let's talk about a trend line in and of itself. A trend line is a form of support and resistance, except in this case, it's more of a sloping line rather than just horizontal. So sloping trend lines and horizontal trend lines are usually the most common. Horizontal lines, those are just more usually known as support or resistance, but they can be, So a trend line requires at least 2 touches to be considered value, but requires 3 touches to be a confirmed trend line. The sharper the slope of a given trend line, the less reliable that given trend line becomes. Upward sloping trend lines are characterized by higher lows on the market. So I'm going to go over some really basic stuff, and then when we get into the Q&A, we're going to be going over a little bit more advanced stuff. So upward sloping trend lines are characterized by higher lows, okay, after each retest of the trend line as support. The upward sloping trend line can give us good insight into where we might want to enter into a long position in combination with other indicators. So this is an example of a stellar chart, and you can see once this trend line was broken, it had 1 and 2 bearish retests, so that would have been a good place to take a short as well. But so this is, not a good place to enter unless you've got a key moving average here, but you tested it twice, so you got 2 tests, and on this third one, definitely a good place where we could have entered for a high confluence, high probable trade. And here you could have entered it again, but you would have gotten it less because the more times it touches this trend line, usually they get a little bit weaker. So what are the features of a downward sloping resistance? So the same thing, except in this one, you're going to get lower highs instead of higher lows. And you're going to get that same sort of rejection resistance that you saw similar to the higher lows. So the downward sloping trend line can give us good insight into where we might want to enter into a short position or exit a long position in combination with other indicators, or when our trend might be reversing. So let's say you're trying to look for a long position and you've got this trend like this, and maybe you've identified that this is a falling wedge structure and it's getting more and more consolidated. So once this breaks out, that could be a decent place to look for an entry once you get that retest where you're looking for. So what are some of the features of a horizontal trend line? Well, downward sloping trend lines are characterized by lower highs, as well as the downward sloping trend line can give us good insight into where we might want to enter into a short position in combination with some other indicators. So a horizontal trend line, I don't know why I read horizontal trend line. A horizontal support line is different than a sloping trend line in that it's not really identifying much of a trend. It's just more of a support line. So how do you trade trend lines? Well, one way to trade trend lines is to enter the trade on confirmation of the trend line acting as support or resistance. So this is more getting into candlestick patterns, identifying like 3 types of candlesticks where you get maybe a doji pattern after like a strong sell-off back onto your support line, or you get a specific pattern that shows up, a bullish type pattern. But the most important thing is confirmation on all of these. So here is something where we could wait on confirmation. So we've got this bearish bear flag. So we've got a very simple trend channel. Okay, so we've got this lower trend channel and a higher trend channel, and we'll talk about whether to use bodies or wicks when we get into the Q&A. But once this breaks down, that could be a decent entry with a stop back above or just a stop back into the channel once it breaks and closes down as it is showing a strong move to the downside. So another way to trade trends is to play the breakout and successful retest as new support of resistance. So an SR flip mentioned in the last video that we did on support and resistances. So something like this where you've got that downward slope, just like we talked about with stellar lumens. We had the breakout and then we confirmed this as strong support. So once this confirmed to hold as strong support, we can enter here with a stop below, and then we can target maybe a Fibonacci level or maybe or back to the range high, or just even a simple move back up to here. So we could have captured 6 to 8%. Lots of different ways to play this, okay? And we'll talk about those in just a second. So trend lines become stronger and more relevant the more times they're successfully tested, whereas support lines, horizontal trend lines, are more reliable than upward or downward sloping trend lines, and support and resistances become weaker horizontally because that's as an example of supply and demand, whereas trend lines get stronger because more buyers are showing up to the market. And the way that you know a trend is over is short term, midterm, and long term. We'll identify that during the Q&A, but when the trend line is actually broken, that's one way you know that the short term trend is broken. But then you can look at other slopes, and we'll talk about that when we go over all the live examples. So what are trend channels? Channels are essentially a combination of trend lines. There can be many different forms of channels ranging from upwards, downwards, sideways channels, and so on. So channels can often go hand in hand with pattern formation, such as bull flags and bear flags. Along with other indicators, channels can help paint a clearer picture about the current price action. So we're going to go over all of these in examples, and I'm going to show you a few keys on trends specifically. So here's an example of a bear flag. So a bear flag is a upward sloping trend channel that is after a strong impulse to the downside. So we strong impulse down. We had this, which is known as an SFP, a swing fail pattern, where you get a wick to the top side. It grabs that liquidity, most likely a short filling position, and then it dumps to the downside. And then we've got very little bounce here, and then it broke down, retested, and that'd be a really great place to take a short. And then again, we got another bear flag. This one is a little bit more extended, so less valid. When they go on really extended, that's usually not a super valid bear flag. But again, a bear flag is only confirmed when it breaks down. And then here we broke up, and we've got this small little bull flag consolidation. You can see it just acts as a channel there. So when we talk about trends, there's a couple keys that I want to cover. So key number one, trends can change on different time frames. So you can have a weekly downtrend, but a 4-hour uptrend. So it really depends on what type of trader you are, what kind of percentage you're looking at getting, what your RR is, and how long you want to hold the trade. So if you're an investor and you're looking at multi-year time frames, maybe 1 year to 10 year, you really want to analyze the weekly, the monthly, and the yearly chart. The daily is less relevant. And if you are let's say a day trading swing trader, the daily is the most relevant, but 4-hour can also be prevalent, and the weekly is important to get context of the overall structure of the market. So again, trends can be different on different time frames. So you can have a 5-minute uptrend and an hourly downtrend, and you can trade both successfully. It just really depends on your preference. If you're scalping, 1 minute, 5 minute, 15 minute, 30 minute time frames, if you're an intraday trader. And so understanding the difference between high time frame and low time frame is very important, because you can have different trends on different time frames. So that's one thing that a lot of people get wrong, and they try to mix time frames for different trading styles, and I would recommend not doing that. So there are 3 types of trends: a strong trend, which I consider holding the 20 MA as a key support; a medium trend, which is holding the 20 MA and sometimes the 50 MA as a key support; and a weak trend, which is usually it dips below the 50 and sometimes tests the 100 MA. So those are the 3 types of trends, and I'll help you to identify. Now, the other thing with crypto is you have to identify parabolic trends and hyperparabolic trends, and there's differences between both. And I'll talk about parabolic trends and how to identify maybe some entries, possible exits on hyperparabolic trends, parabolic trends. So key number 3, for stop losses, you really want to set stop losses once the trend is proving to reverse. So as the trade moves up, you can use the structure of the chart. So the last support, you can use the EMA or in the MA, depending on what the chart is more prone to be reliant on. So sometimes it's the exponential moving average, and sometimes it's the moving average, and sometimes it's other things. You can also use support resistance or the trend lines that you've identified that don't really match up with any sort of moving average or exponential moving average. So set your stop losses below one of those key structures in a strong trending market so that you don't get stopped out of the market. So if it's like I said, if it's a strong trend, you want to put your stop loss below the 20 MA. If it's a medium trend, you want to put your stop loss below the 50 MA where you're not going to get taken out. And if it's a weak trend, you want to put your stop loss all the way below the 100 MA. And I'll talk about supports and ways to enter on these different trends during the Q&A. So number 4, this is key number 4, long-term trends can be identified by the daily 200 moving average. Long time frames, it can be identified by above the weekly 200 moving average. So those are my 2 ways to identify whether it's a strong uptrend, and you can also identify it by the slope of the 200 period moving average. If the slope is down on the 200 period moving average, it's usually still in a downtrend, even if it's above the 200 period moving average. So you really want the slope to be shifting to the top side, if that makes sense. So key number 5, for parabolic trends, you really want to use lower time frames to find an entry. This is something that throws a lot of people off because they see a candle that's just basically this massive candle on the daily chart or even the weekly chart, and for them it's very hard to find an entry if you're looking at the daily. But if it's a strong parabolic trend, you really want to shift down to the 15-minute or hourly to find those trends, because you'll be able to find the 20 moving average or the 50 or the 100 where it's using those as support. Now, the other thing with trends and trending indicators like a moving average or something like that is they don't work really well in sideways markets. So you really have to identify whether you are in a trending market or whether you're in a sideways market, because if you're in a sideways market, you're not going to have good entries and exits, because it's just going to get chopped up, especially if you're using like a crossover method. And so that's why you really want to identify whether it's a strong market. Now, one of the key things that I also want to talk about is in crypto, what you'll often find is there's 3 to 5 altcoins, if you're trading altcoins, that tend to break out before the rest of the market. And so you can identify whether they start trending first, and then you can start to identify some other setups as they break out to look for the same patterns, because they all tend to follow the same patterns. As it goes in crypto, as it goes in stocks, a rising tide will lift all boats. So a strong market, or when Bitcoin dominance is falling, you'll see that it tends to lift most altcoins off those bottom accumulation structures when those buy algorithms and those market makers start to push those other altcoins. So if you see a few altcoins start to pop off, identify their patterns, identify their structures, identify what moving averages that they're responding to, respecting, identify what Fibonacci levels they're running to, identify what high time frame resistance levels they're finding, and then apply those to some of those other trending coins that you find in the market. And that can help you considerably with improving your trading, especially during a month like we're having right now in January and the start of February, where altcoins in general are just moving really, really hard against the market. So all right, let's jump into some practice. Do you guys have any questions before we go into any of that stuff? Feed is not loading, says Keely. Looks good on my end. It says I have good connection. Is that doing it for anybody else? I want to make sure that we continue to... Can you guys write in the chat whether or not you guys can still hear me, still see me? It says I'm still live. Everything looks pretty good on my end. It says excellent connection. All right, we're going to... No, it's good. Okay, perfect. So let's take a look here, and we're gonna throw in any coin that you guys want me to look at in the chat, and we're gonna go through a bunch of examples, and we'll talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and we'll talk about some of the parabolic markets and go through that. Okay. All right. So let me. All right, 1 second. I want to make sure all this is good. ADA and BTC chart, can hear and can see. Green candles everywhere. Voice is scratchy, but otherwise good. Okay, maybe my mic's too high. Sorry about that. I also probably need some water, but that's okay. All right, let's take a look at ETH first. So ETH BTC or ETH USD. Someone said Atom a few times, so we're going to take a look at Atom first. Okay, so I'm going to maximize this. Move my favorites down. All right, so before we get in, here's a few things that I like to look at. I like to look at my moving averages: 20, 50, 100, 200, 350, 500. My exponential moving averages, I like the 10 and the 200, and I put them all on my chart, and I want to see what it's respecting, okay? So right now I'm on the 4 hour. I really like 4 hour to find my entries, and then I like daily to find my exits. Okay, so let's take a look at the daily to see where we're at right now. So daily, so Atom looks pretty good. So if we're gonna draw our trend, we wanna draw it just like this. And what you'll notice is this trend here, mostly respecting, I'm gonna get rid of all this really quick, was mostly respecting the 50 period moving average. So if we go back to our chart, this would actually be a healthy trend because it was holding that 50. Okay, so this is a healthy trend. It's not a strong trend. So we found support here. We came up. We found support here, and we've also got this 1 test, 2 test, 3 test. So we've got a valid support as far as our trend line goes now. But here we broke the 50 period moving average. We tested it once. So this was our key support here. Could have entered, and then it broke up here, but it broke down. This was our resistance from our trend. Okay, and it broke up here. And then once it broke down here, that was the sign that we first off we broke down short term. Okay, so our short term trend was over here, and then here's our 50 period moving average, which was our strong support, and it broke down here. But this was a key that our trend might be over, and it came up here, and it could not get the strength on the daily chart to close above here. So this would have been another indication to maybe exit your trade that you maybe entered down here for a strong profit. But once it broke this level here and couldn't go close back above, that was a key that the short-term trend was over. So yes, Atom looked good back here, but for now I would say we've lost our major trend. So now it looks like it's trending back to the downside, and if we put up all of our moving averages again, we can see that we're actually testing this 20 period moving average. So this looks like a bit more of a stronger downtrend now because the 50 period moving average is now sloping down. The 20 period moving average is now sloping down, and we lost the 200 exponential moving average. So if this is a strong trend, the 200 period is sloping up. Where I would look to enter Atom is right down here on the 200 period moving average on the daily, especially if this chart can't close above the 200 exponential, which is this orange right here. Okay, now you can see it found support on the 200 exponential. That when we lost the 50, it found support here, and it bounced really nicely, but it got rejected again at this strong resistance here. And it came back down, and then it came back to test it, but it's getting rejected by the 20 yet again, and the 100 MA also acted as rejection on that wick there. So as far as Atom goes, I would probably wait for it to retest this 200 period moving average on the daily before I get super excited. And again, when we zoom out, okay, and we look at a little bit higher time frame structures, we do have a weekly downtrend that came up here, and then now we're testing the 20 period weekly moving average, but we're getting rejected by the 10 EMA. But as far as the daily goes, I would get a little bit more bullish if we closed above the 20 period moving average and held this 200 EMA. Hopefully that makes sense. You got, okay, so let's take a look at Bitcoin. A lot of people probably want to know what the hell Bitcoin's doing. Okay, so I did post that whoops, let me get rid of all this stuff here. Okay, so if we look at the weekly, it's very easy to see whether or not we're on a uptrend or downtrend. So just from like a high time frame perspective, this would be our weekly uptrend. So even if, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but even if we came all the way down to 5,500 and we did one of these guys, that's still a higher low and an uptrend in the long-term time frame. Okay, so you're talking about multi-year, which it's still an uptrend, and we still, we've hit it 3 times. So it's definitely a valid line that we do have to consider when we're charting when we're charting. So here we've got this one as well that we can look at as a dynamic trend resistance level. And so this is a possible resistance level around 11.3, 11.2, where we could see something, something like that until we consolidate. So that's also possible. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. We're not mind readers. We just play based on probabilities, right? So that's how we trade. So from a weekly time frame perspective, we've got a very, very strong slope. Okay, so this would be a very strong trend, potentially a parabolic trend. This is something similar, right? So one way to identify parabolic trends that I found really helpful is when the slope of the trend gets higher and higher. So you can see here we had this slope there. So as you can see, the slope of the trend continues to get more and more as the trend moves. Now, if we look at this on the daily, this looks a little bit more obvious because you can see that. So here we had this flat support, and then here we had a support there, and then it just got higher and higher. And so that's what a parabolic trend looks like as the trend line slope changes. And obviously you don't use a trend line anymore. You use more of a curve to identify the parabolic support and resistances of the market. So something like that. And then parabolic trends, they have their own rules. I can do a whole video on parabolic trends. It's not a well-studied market cycle, but once a parabolic trend breaks, usually they break down at least 50 to 75%. All right, so other than that, let's take a look at our moving averages and let's see what Bitcoin is respecting right now and how we can find those high time frame entries. So from a high time frame perspective, we're on the daily, okay? So we broke the 20 period moving average and the 50 period moving average. So the 50 period moving average was a decent dynamic support, but really when we eliminate everything, the 200 exponential moving average, the 200 EMA was probably the most key level on the chart, the key exponential moving average. So you can see here rejection, support, broke down rejection, and then you can see how strong of a resistance that was over here. So that 200 EMA was really strong. So once it broke, this was the flip, and that's actually where I got long. So this was where so I was bullish at 6,800. This is where I entered. I showed some of my trades on Twitter, and then I was bullish up to here, and that's where I got out of the market and I hedged. And then we had this massive candle, and then once it pulled back to this 200 EMA, that's where I got long, and I actually took profit right around 94, 9,500. So I'm not in a position on here. I've mostly been trading altcoins because dominance has been breaking down, but this is a really good example of invalidation and validation, right? So I was bearish here and expecting a breakdown to some sort of a lower channel here. At this point, I believe that I was mostly just looking for a retest of the yearly open or this level here. Instead, we basically found support here. So it did one of these numbers, which was a key level, but I was looking for something like this. I thought we'd see a move up and then a test back down here, but we never got it. So we moved into a short squeeze. Once it broke this 200 EMA though, that for me was invalidation from bear to bull, and that's when I got long, and that's when I did one of my live streams. Okay, so let's take a look at our moving averages again. So again, we have only tested the 20 MA one time. So this 20 MA showed that it was a good, decent, let me get rid of everything else again. I want to make sure you guys can see this stuff. So we rejected it to 200 MA here, came back down, tested the 200 MA. So a good exit point, right? And if you're using your 4 hour, for your entry levels. If you watch my last video, I gave you a simple strategy for USDT pairs that's been working really well lately, been crushing it actually. And so when you break that 200 MA on the lower time frames, let's say the 4 hour, and we'll just do something simple. So when you break that 200 MA or 200 EMA on the 4 hour and you closed above it, you see where right there, we closed above it and then we started moving up. Then what you can look for is on the lower time frames, this is where you can get your entries. And then on the high time frames, when we zoom back out to the daily, that's where we can get our exits, okay? And obviously we showed a real strong strength here once we pushed out and above it. And so that's one thing that you can always look for. Now, also on the 4 hour, we can use our moving averages again. And what we can see is that nothing really too obvious as far as our trends are concerned on the 4 hour. Let's maybe look at the 12 hour, see if we've got anything here. So 12 hour, we're holding the 50 period moving average. But again, nothing that's showing like a ton of like certainty where you can use it over and over and over. But here you can see in strong trends, the 20 period moving average and the hourly is showing pretty good as far as a dynamic support. So that's something to watch for, and look at the 100 period moving average. So one thing I'll tell you about using moving averages is you really want to analyze the chart and the market to see what levels and what moving averages are being respected in the trend. And that'll help you identify weak trends, moderate trends, healthy trends, stuff like that. Let me take a look. What are your thoughts about deviations away from higher moving averages on the 4 hour, daily chart, or whatever time frame used for primary? Importance of trading outside second and third deviations. You can use deviations in stronger trending markets, but I personally haven't had any reason to use deviations. B Sparks. $1 million for, okay. So let's take a look. All right. Okay, so again, so for these smaller time frames, you want to find a time frame that's being highly respected. Okay, so here's something. Check this out. So the 500 period moving average on the 30 minute is actually showing really, really key here. So this is interesting. So you could see here it acted as really strong. Oops. Let me do this little draw tool. There it is. Okay. So here you can see that 30 minute acted. I mean, it's catching all the wicks, and then once it broke down hard. And then it found a little bit of resistance here and then tried to break down again, but it held it dynamically. And then here it held it as well. So this 500 period moving average on 30 minute is something that I'll definitely be watching for. So that would be the 255 EMA on the yeah, okay. So cool. So we're identifying a dynamic level that seems to be respected quite a bit. So on the hourly, this would be our 255 or 250, I guess. And so this is a level that you're going to want to watch. So we've got the 200 exponential and then the 250 moving average as well. So if this does break down, that's the place where we're going to want to look for possible support. So 94, 9500. And then you also want to look for something called confluence. So does this line up with a key level? So this was a strong resistance level. So it makes sense if this does break down, that would be our level to possibly get long around 94.40, 94.50. We've got the 200 EMA as well as this dynamic support that's been holding us up the whole time. So that's a way that you can use potentially a number that doesn't quite line up with everything else, so it's not an odd number, it's not an even number. But what you're trying to identify when you're looking at moving averages is what are the buy algorithms using? What is their invalidation level? So as soon as it comes down here and it tests this area, you're seeing strong buyback. So those are known as buy algorithms, or and so that's what you want to look for. So when you're looking at your chart, that's how you can identify a key level that you can possibly use in your trading. Is Bitcoin okay? So let me Keep looking through here. Lots of altcoins here. H-bar. Someone wrote, hi, CryptoFace. I am not CryptoFace. Okay, so H-bar. Let's take a look at the daily first. So we had a strong breakout, okay? So if we look at our 4-hour, we can see, let's see. So our 4-hour got rejected at the 500, which is basically the 250 daily. So right now we did not hold the 20-period moving average, and so this on a 4-hour looks like it's going to want to break down to the 50. And the 50 makes sense because that would be the last key support. And also these strong breakouts, what you want to look for is you want to look for key confluence. So see, I wrote this level here. That's also the 50% Fibonacci level. Now, the 50% Fibonacci level is kind of like, so these Fibonacci levels will actually tell you the same thing that moving averages will tell you. So when it breaks up and it pulls back, so like in this case, if we just take a Fibonacci level from here to here, if it goes to the, let me get rid of this. If it goes to the 38.2, okay, then that's a strong trend. Okay, so if it breaks up, pulls back to the 38.2, finds support, then that's usually a strong trend. So again, if we take our levels from here to here, we're currently testing the 61.8 and almost testing the 78.6. But in my opinion, if we go down to the 38.2 again, that should hold because we do have that 50-period moving average coming up for a strong bounce play there, depending on whether or not Bitcoin does anything crazy. Now, these are all altcoins, so it's important to kind of watch those. Now, one thing to watch here on, let's say, EOS. I did recommend everybody take profit in our group. We got long around 4,000 on this buy zone right here. And so we did a nice little 18% move. I was looking for 5,000 as the place to get out of the trade. But again, we're going to look at the overall trend of the market to see what this looks like. So we recently had a little bit of a vortex, these moving averages. We broke out on high time frame volume. We used the 10 EMA on the daily, and we're still using the 10 EMA. So this is the sign that we're in a very strong trend. So we draw it from the higher lows, and we're using this 10 EMA, and it still hasn't even broken the 10 EMA. So again, we're dropping right now on lower time frames, but for here, this could be a decent place to get back in. So if you sold, let's say around 47, and we're coming back down. So 4%, you could have added 4% to the bottom line. But from a high time frame perspective, we're getting a few things. So we're getting a bearish div on the daily, okay? And so it makes sense that we might see this thing pull back all the way back down to the 200 EMA before this thing really starts to rally. Now, the other thing is if we look at it on the daily and we eliminate all this stuff real quick. If we just use structure of the chart, again here, you can short here with a stop above because you've got this really clear invalidation level. It was resistance back here. It was resistance here. We've got a nice bearish div. But again, if you want to wait for the trend to actually break, you can also do that as well. Okay, so let's take a look at XRP. Somebody wanted to look at XRP. So XRP, this is not a very strong trend at all yet. You can see the daily is still very, very much down. This is our resistance level here. Basically just hit it again. So this is a very, very weak trend comparatively to all the other assets. From a time frame, a daily time frame perspective, it's basically up It's up 9.74% since really the start of the year. So XRP is a very, very weak trend, and I would be very careful because we are coming against that downtrend resistance right there. And if we use our moving averages like I've been teaching you or I've been showing you, you can also see that we actually came up right against that 200 period moving average and got rejected hard. Now we are testing the 10 EMA. Could be the first test, But personally, when I see a rejection like that, 1, 2, 3, 4 wicks, I think that that's sign enough for me to not trade this yet. Personally, if I was going to trade a trending asset, I would wait for it to trade like that. This is basically just kind of guesswork. It's better to trade to the short side when it's not showing signs of strength yet. XRP is going to pump. Fuck you all. All right. Well, good luck with that, man. I would personally wait. I've been basically telling everyone to wait since all the way back here. And for me personally, and I hope this makes a lot of sense to you, Jordan Baller, holding Ripple during a downtrend is a major opportunity cost. Let's just take I'm not going to go super in depth, but Bitcoin went up 330% last year and Ripple went down, basically stayed at break even. So you missed out on a 330% pump and you actually took a significant hit to your Bitcoin while holding XRP. So I get it though. I traded XRP. I traded this whole rally basically, and I traded even below that rally. I bought it when it was way down into the 1200 1500 sats. But for me personally, I'm a technical trader, so I'd rather see it flip the trend first. Personally. So, all right, what else we got? ADA BTC. ADA, that's been one of my best trades actually. Made a killing this year. So ADA starting to dip on the RSI. Okay, so same thing you can do with price action, you can also do with RSI. You can look at these trends and you can find dynamic supports that RSI might find. Very, very similar to price action, but it's just a little bit easier. Okay, so the ADA BTC, it broke and it's been holding this 10 EMA the whole time. That's a really strong structure. So if it breaks here, this 200 EMA, not really proving that it's much of a resistance or much of a support. You can see here, not really anything going on with that. So we can just get that out of our chart. But the 200 MA, look at how it respects it here. Resistance, resistance, finally broke up, used it as support, broke down here, resistance and resistance. I mean, to the money, that's a sell algorithm that every time it touches the 200 MA, sells down pretty hard. So now, we broke the 200 period moving average, found a little rejection, but we broke it, but we have not tested it yet. So is it possible that something like this could come all the way back down and test the 200 MA? Yes, it's very possible. These types of things do this all the time. And so I would not put that out of the realm of possibility. Let's see. Okay, so not enough data to really go over all the stuff back there. But do I think that's going to happen? I mean, I don't think so, but it is a possibility. Let's take a look at here. Okay, so Fibonacci level, well, the 61.8 is right at the 200 period moving average. So it is possible that we get another 500, 490 to 500 buy zone on ADA. So something to consider when watching it. But also we've got the 20 period moving average that has not been tested yet, and that's going to be right at the 23.6, so 581. So again, we just want to see and wait for the confirmation first. But when we look at this from a weekly perspective, that is not a trending asset yet, because we still have this level here on a weekly. That's a key weekly level. So if it gets back above this level and reclaims that as support around 700, then we could consider this a bullish trade. But for now, it's basically looking like a strong bottom on the downside with a strong breakup. But again, you'd want to see it break 700 before you go like super exuberant bull. Hot BTC is interesting, strong accumulation. We traded hot a couple of times, but I'll go over some key tips on. Why aren't you using volume on these charts? Volume shows you where whales and bots are interested in moving the price. Most patterns, if not all, are on high volume candles. I look at volume after I've done my chart analysis, because most of the volume in crypto is fake volume. There's a lot of wash trading. So it's really hard to take into account volume. What's better to use is the VWAP and the VPVR. The VPVR is the visible volume profile. Okay, so hot BTC. There's no trend. There's not really much going on. It's really possible double bottom structure. We do have a bullish div on the RSI, but low sat coins like this, you really don't want to use the BTC pairs. And I'll tell you why. The BTC pairs are hard to get in and hard to get out. So hot USDT is a much better and more liquid chart to trade. And so let's take a look at this one. So daily, we are finding resistance right against the 200 period moving average. So I would expect it to, it looks like the 100 period moving average is a pretty key level. So it looks like we're probably just going to pull back to this 100 level and maybe bounce or consolidate in through here. Possibly that we form something like this, like an ascending triangle before it breaks up. But again, I'd want to see it break up, retest the 200 moving average, and that would be a really great long entry. B-Sparks, gotta run. I'm all in on your teachings. Thanks a million. You hottie you. Well, I hope you're not a catfish, but I appreciate the sentiment. Okay, so, and you're welcome. Okay, so Crypto Elf. All right, let's, what else you guys want to talk about? Matic? Yeah, let's look at Matic. All right, so Matic on the daily broke out. Tried to test the 100 period moving average, came down and tested the 20 MA for the first time. So that would have been a decent entry. It looks like we got that nice little pullback dump. So it's possible we continue to trend up, but look at the 200 moving average. Tested it once, tested it twice, tested it 3 times, tested it 4 times. So each one of these could have been a great trade. 200 MA is a great trade to look at. Matic, I mean, this looks like just another investor sold. If you look at the 5 minute, we had this massive sell-off. Again, stop loss is liquidated. Not the best thing to try and trade unless you were short. We were in a Matic long. I think we were up like 17%. Our stop loss had been moving into profit. These lights make me sleepy. Our stop loss got moved into profit, and then we got rejected there. Do you guys have anything specific on trends exactly that I can cover? Oh, this light is actually not really that helpful. See how that does? That looks a little better. Okay. All right. All right, let's take a look at some traditional markets. I want to show you how powerful the 200 exponential moving average is in. So let's take a look at Apple. So if all we use is our 200 exponential moving average, and we can use all the other ones too, but oops. And let's close this out. Perfect. Okay, so let's take a look on the weekly time frames. So the 200 exponential moving average on the weekly time frames in traditional markets is what I call the moneymaker. So every time it comes down to these 200 exponential moving averages, look at that double bottom. Look at that triple bottom. Basically like a kind of a hybrid Adam and Eve pattern. 200 exponential moving average. This is on the weekly. This was even in 2019. If you play these with the options, you can make an unbelievable amount of money. Okay. So again, the 200 exponential moving average on the weekly is a killer in traditional markets. Here you can see Tesla, bang, 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 bang. Came down, did this double bottom test. That's where I bought it around 178, 180. And then it formed this ascending triangle. And once it broke this 200 period moving average, gangbusters. went crazy all the way up to 941, the 361.8 extension. I was looking for 1072, but that wasn't bad. XBT, BTC, USD. Let's see. Look at the 200-week exponential moving average. Bang. Beautiful. Okay. So this is, you guys can use this on any market. Let's take a look at Roku. Too soon. Roku's earnings are coming up. Apple, Amazon. This hasn't gotten back to the 200 EMA in a while. This one we'd have to look at a few other assets. I am expecting, a pretty big move out of Amazon here. But if we look at, let's say, the daily, let's say, 3-day. Okay, so for Amazon, you want to use the 200 EMA on the 3-day. So you got to just find out what works on the chart. Look at that wick right there, 3-day 200 EMA. Beautiful stuff here. But if you use all your other moving averages, this is a trending market. You can look at the daily. If you use all your other key moving averages, you can really identify some of these. You need to drink coffee like CX. I'm sorry, I need water. I was talking all day on the phone. Okay, Amazon. I'm just going through all my charts. Let's look at like USD JPY. So that's the daily, but let's look at the monthly. So monthly gives us a really good perspective. We got this monthly downtrend here, but we're consolidating at resistance. So we've got potential, real strong potential consolidation zone here. Let's take a look at the weekly. Weekly, we're vortexing, but we are still below the 200-day weekly moving average. So USD JPY, we're coming up probably against a decent short zone coming soon, down to $105. These Ishimoku clouds. I do not use the Ishimoku clouds. Do the crown drinking sound. I don't have any water. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to grab some water. Parched in here, like Crown. Why is Disney being such a dud? Let's take a look at Disney. Disney's not being a dud. Testing the 50 moving average. This actually looks pretty damn good on the weekly. Testing the 200 EMA on the daily. So not bad. To me, I just see a strong trend. Testing the 200 moving average, 200 EMA. If this breaks down, then you got something to worry about. But to me, this looks pretty damn good for uptrend. All right, let's take a look at XLM. You guys getting a lot out of this? If you guys are getting a lot out of this, hit that like button for me. I'm trying to give you guys and deliver as much value as I can. What's your analysis on U.S. oil? Okay, let me take a look at XLM first. Okay, so we don't have much of a trend here yet. There's really nothing to talk about as far as trend. This is mostly just possible accumulation. Nothing really too crazy going on yet. So this isn't really, if you zoom into the 30-minute, you can find some trends, but again, like on 30-minute, you can see how we held the 200 EMA, broke the 200 EMA. So XLM, possible, buy the dip opportunity. But for me, I think there's much better coins that are trending much harder from a trending perspective. Again, look at XLM. We haven't really even cracked the 20 MA on the weekly chart. So not something that I'm looking at trading. Possible, maybe double bottom on the weekly, but we have a lot of work to do on XLM before I get super excited. Let's take a look at some actual trending coins here. So no. AN is in a decent uptrend. Thanks, babe. Figured he would ring a bell and a servant would bring the water. If you met me in real life, you would not know that I was a millionaire. My house, my cars. I invest in businesses and I invest in people. And I invest in stocks and crypto. But I don't invest in material things. I don't need them. And I don't want my kids to be raised like rich assholes. Okay. What books do you recommend for learning the basic trend? I mean, really basic. Trading in the Zone is the first book that I would recommend all of you guys watching read. Because the most important thing when it comes to trading is your mindset. Your mindset and your psychology. Not FOMOing into candles, being patient, not feeling like you always need to be in a trade. All of these things come with mindset. Understanding that you're buying pullbacks in an uptrend, not buying, so there's psychological triggers that you kind of just have to work around. But it's just kind of like golf. When you go out golfing, it's mostly a psychological game. There's lots of players that are, really good, but it all comes down to their mind. Same thing with trading. It all comes down to the mind. So Trading in the Zone is really good. Teaches you a lot of things about psychology. I have joined my Telegram group. I have a link for my free Telegram group in the description. And when you join that, I can post the Trading in the Zone book for free. I have a PDF of it. Bro, the best value YouTuber you got, Zill, BTC, CND, BTC, Crypto Gardener. I appreciate your comment, man. And I think I read your comment the other day saying that I can't remember the exact verbiage, but I appreciate the support. Guys, I read every single comment you leave. Probably not the best usage of my time. But I don't make a ton of money. Even from my trade group, I don't make a ton of money. Most of my money comes from trading. I really do this because I want to see you guys succeed. So, all right. So let me keep going here. Wise words you're telling people. Better listen to good people. Okay. So yeah. So Aeon had some really strong volume, and again, it had this dynamic trend line here that was acting as resistance. And once it broke that, it had a really nice move up. Right now, we're actually testing the 200 EMA on the daily. This actually looks like a really great trade, possible 20-30% trade. Maybe we get a double top out of this. Maybe it breaks out and pushes higher. That looks pretty damn good on a daily, though. That's a trade that I would personally take. So I might take this after the thing. And again, you can just take a stop right below. I mean, the invalidation is super, super low. You can just make a 3-4% trade. So you can have a pretty decent position size because of that. Okay. What do you think Bitcoin does tomorrow? How do you feel about Hex? That's a scam. You can listen. Okay. So let's take a look at some other stuff. OGN. Now this is something that is really fun to play for the scalps right now. So again, this is a 30-minute. It's respecting it really, really well. You can see 20 MA, 20 MA, 20 MA, 20 MA, 20 MA. So we broke it back above the 20 MA yet again. Once we hit this 100 MA on the 30-minute. Now again, this looks, if on a daily, you wouldn't be able to get any of that information. On the daily, whoops. Like I was saying before, on the daily, doesn't look like anything. This just looks like a FOMO candle. But on the 30-minute, well, there's a lot of information. You can play this a couple times. You can buy here. Look at that 30%. You can buy here, 47%. You can buy here, 29%. Obviously, that's if you're timing tops. But even if you go here and once you get the first rejection, even if you want to sell, even if you're just playing 15%, could you imagine adding 15% every single trade? And this was in a 30-minute time frame, so these didn't take very long. So some of these really, really big moving trades, you can play them just off those 30-minute entries. WPR or ELF, this looks like it's just getting started on the 30-minute. We're holding the 200 MA, testing the 20 MA, so that's definitely one to watch. And on the daily, it's really hard to get that information. You can't really see anything. So in these really strong breakout moves, you have to time them. On the 4-hour, though, you can see we broke out above the 200 period moving average, tested it as support. And then when do we get out? Well, we use our high time frame resistance, which was that 200 EMA. Even if you got out at the 200 MA, that's still a pretty decent trade. Or, okay, so if it breaks the 200 MA, your 200 EMA is your next structure that you're going to want to watch. And once it breaks that, your next structure is the 350 and the 500. So those are your high time frame resistances when it comes to trends that you want to take out. You said you would discuss wicks versus candles. Okay, yeah, let's do that real quick. All right, so let's use ETH USD. All right, so, okay, this one's good. Let me get rid of everything. All right, so some people ask me, what is better? Is it better to use wicks or is it better to use bodies for your trend channels? So, or your trend lines. So you can use the wick and you can use the body, okay? So it doesn't have to be one or the other, but what it does if you use the body close, and it depends on your time frame. This is daily, okay? We could also use 4 hour, and it just depends on the time frames that you want to use for your body closings. But on the daily, what we can do is we can draw both lines. We can draw both lines, and what this does is this gives us an idea of what I call, oops. Okay, so this will give us a good idea of throw over. I don't know, not rotating right, but this gives us a good idea of what the possible throw over is. So let's say our trends here. So let's say we want to play a little risky and we want to enter on one of these breaks down here. Now, what would happen is we could maybe try and scalp with some layered buys here, and then once it breaks back above, our validation is if the daily closes back above our trend line here. So this is throw over. This gives us kind of a deviation out of normal, and then you've got the trend bodies that gives us validation for close or not close. And also if you get that wick down and then it comes back up and then it closes on the daily, then you know that's a pretty decent support. So what I like to do is I personally like to use both trend bodies and trend channels because that just gives me a little bit more information to work off of. Because now I've got, like, instead of thinking of it like a zone or thinking of it just like as a static line, now I've got like basically a trading zone. So if I'm trying to trade this, what I can do is I can layer my bids. So let's say I think it's going to come up here. I can actually enter, 25%, 25%, 25%, 25%. So my average entry is mid zone. Okay. But if it comes up and just tags my first fill and then drops back down, well, at least I'm filled for something instead of trying to wait for the very tippy top of this entry, if that makes sense. Bitcoin is dumping. All right. Everyone's saying Bitcoin's dumping. Let's take a look. I mean, that's not. Hourly's dumping. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I posted a bunch of tweets saying it's got some weakness. All right. So overall market was looking pretty weak today. I think if you guys saw my tweets, if you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you follow me on Twitter because I post a whole bunch of stuff about that stuff. So I'll show you some of the tweets I just posted today. So EOS is what I posted earlier. EOS looking weak, facing resistance on ETH with the bear div, looking weak. I wouldn't surprised to see a drop down. Ethereum is up 32%, but again coming up against high time frame resistance. I say the same thing. Bulls want to see a strong push. Not a bad place to take off some profit. So we are breaking down. This was a rising triangle, but these only break up 62% of the time. And we are facing very, very positive funding. So now where are we going to find support? Well, let's take a look at our trend channels. And I think I said 94.50. I think 94.50 based on the moving averages. So let's take a look again. Yeah, so the most logical place on the hourly is this 200 EMA, 200 MA. So 94.50, 9400. Okay. Not a bad place to look. Even this 100 MA is a possible zone. 4 hour, we haven't tested the 20 MA yet. But again, the 50 MA probably makes the most sense. The 50 MA on the 4 hour has been a really, really dynamic support and resistance for quite some time. The 100 MA as well, you can see rejection here once we broke through. So even possible that we come all the way back down to this level here. So a couple key support levels. Just don't rush your entries. Wait for confirmation and then go from there. All right, let's take a look at algo. Algo selling off pretty hard. I'd be cautious on altcoins right now. The market is selling off a bit, which was kind of to be expected after the strong rallies. But again, this 200 period moving average, that looks pretty darn good for a retest. So if you're going to buy, I'd probably put some what are known as stink bids right around here. I think I covered that already. All right. And then if Bitcoin closed the weekly at least above 9,400, that would be pretty bullish, as that is above the top weekly Gaussian channel. Yeah, I would agree. Trading is like exposure therapy for me, keeping my emotions from ruling me in. Trading can be excellent practice for emotional stability. Absolutely. All right, I'm going to cover a few more. Mostly we're trying to talk about trading trends. Give us a test. Ask if we would buy or sell. All right, that's fun. That's a fun little test. Okay, so let's see what the hell's selling off. Zilliqa, I did play a little high time frame sell on that. CTXC, all right, let's see. Yeah, we're getting some sell-offs, boy. Ooh, my goodness. So for a lot of these trending assets, it's best to wait for some of these more key moving averages to get tested, like the 200 EMA. So again, this is our high time frame trend right here. Is it possible that we go all the way up here and then come all the way back down here? 1,000% that's possible, okay? And so these are the things that you want to expect. So when you open up your charts, you want to draw all these things out so that you know when the best time to re-enter is. Look at that, same exact thing. We had this huge breakup, and then it came all the way back down and tested that and gave us a nice 15.5%. So when you draw these trend lines, you can get really good context about where the market might sell off to. And then when you draw your Fibonacci levels and everything else to give you more context, then you've got, a good area from which you can kind of base your trades. Yeah, so let's take a look at dominance. I'm guessing Bitcoin dominance is finding some key support here. So even though with Bitcoin selling off, we are finding some key support, and we're actually moving up pretty strong right now. So definitely a time to reduce alt exposure, as the market is pretty volatile, but you will get some really nice pullbacks to be able to enter some of these higher trending coins. Polymath selling off, yeah. Okay. Alt's dumping 5 times harder than Bitcoin. Hey, Jacob, if you want to short Bitcoin now for scalp swing, what will be your entry and stops? You really need to change your perspective on volume, man. It's much more important than you think. I'm very, very aware of what volume means. Like I said, I mean, I could put it on my chart. It's just not relevant to what I'm doing right now. Yeah, so let me kind of explain what happens with Bitcoin. So it goes Bitcoin, majors, mid caps, shit coins, Bitcoin. So this is essentially the, This is essentially the cycle that money moves in the cryptocurrency markets. So you'll see Bitcoin have a nice spike, and then it'll level off or sit still for a little bit. Then money moves into majors, and then majors it moves into mid caps, and then mid caps it moves into shitcoins, and then shitcoins moves back into Bitcoin. And the problem is you don't want to be stuck holding shitcoins when the money moves back into Bitcoins, because the liquidity dries up and you can't get out. Okay, so let's say you've got $20,000 in Storm BTC. Well, let's say you buy it 11 and you're trying to get out here, but the market can tank on you, and you're $10,000 gets really hard to actually get out of the position, because all of the buyers are evaporate, and all you've got in the market are sellers. And that's what happens a lot of times in these types of markets, is you get these sell algos that start selling off and taking profits, creating distribution. And so times like this, you just kind of want to scale back your positions and just kind of wait for the market to level off, or look for those key support levels, key moving averages like 0x, probably coming back to test this 200 period moving average. And when you're really, really patient with your entries, that's where you can, make a lot of money with this market. Tell me about BNB. I already covered BNB. All right, let's take a look at XBT one more time. See if we're getting that long squeeze. Yeah, I mean, it's not doing too much. Let's take a look at it on a lower time frame. So possible support on the 200 EMA right here. 96.05, possible support here, and then possible support all the way down at this higher time frame here. So until we get invalidated, you can see on the 30-minute we held the 50 MA for quite some time. We bounced off this 100 MA. So for me, the 30-minute is probably a good dominant time frame that we can use. So I'd probably be looking at least a bounce off the 200 EMA around 9,600. If I was going to play this, I'm mostly playing altcoins right now just because they're moving much harder, much faster, and Bitcoin's not moving as much, but worth watching. Even at $1,000, it's hard to get out of these markets. Yeah, 100%. So Matic, I'm out of Matic. My stop loss was triggered, but if we take a look really closely, and we take a look at the daily, look at that. Not bad. 200 on the dot. And if you look at it, it was resistance, support 1, support 2. And if you can identify that, it could have made a nice little 6%. Look how strong and key this level is. Raven coin. Okay, I'm gonna do one more coin, guys. I've been on for, I don't even know how long I've been on for. For a little while. You guys liking the video? You guys want more of these? I'm trying to do more of these. Been on for about an hour and 15 minutes, but yeah. So times like this, you want to look for assets that are moving against the market. So Dogecoin is moving against the market as the market's selling off. Aeon is holding the market well. Again, we're on that 200 EMA. OGN is just a badass coin that's been moving hard. Lots of fundamental stuff going on. Look for any like bull divs on the hourly or 30-minute hourly, or hidden bull divs. Those are super helpful as well. Nevermore XBT has been killing it with Matic. Nevermore XBT. I think I know who that is. Yeah, we bought Matic at like 55 sats, sold 400, and then we recently bought. Yeah, I mean, dude, I love Matic. Matic's a great trending coin. Dude, you're the man. Hell yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate the vids very much. Absolutely, man. Yes, watch the whole thing. Perfect. All right. Got to make sure. Is there anything else you guys want me to cover? I'm trying to cover, all this stuff to make sure that we cover it all. Okay, so I did want to switch gears. So we did we did traditional markets. And if you guys want the slides from earlier to study or to do notes on, I did post them here. So just so you guys know, I posted the link in the comment or in the comments, and also I just posted it in the chat. You think ZIL can push higher? All right, let me take a look. Okay, everyone moves to Doge for safety. You know, there are hedging assets. In 2018, BNB was an amazing hedging asset. And then I think XRP was a couple of times. And then Digix DAO had an inverse correlation with Bitcoin as well. And so if you can find those hedging assets, you can do really well by finding out like where the money's being moved. So MFT, we'll take a look at MFT. There's not really much to say about it. It hasn't. I mean, there's not much to say about this coin. You know, that's the weekly time frame. That's the daily time frame. And, you know, so interesting, right? Not much to say about MFT, sorry. John, sorry, dude. There's not much there. Okay, so let's take a look at TRX. All right, I'm going to do TRX, and then I'm going to let you guys go. Enjoy your Friday nights. All right, so hourly, take a look at this, guys. Hourly, we've got this 200 EMA. So again, we've got this nice dynamic support. Let's take a look here. So it's currently holding our dynamic support. So 214 would have been a decent entry. And then just, you know, maybe 7-8%. But this does look like it's, you know, we started out with, let me get rid of all this stuff so you guys can see this better. So we're on the hourly. Let's take a look at the 4 hour. So we had this nice trend here. Okay. Broke, decent short level there. But this could have been a wave 1, this could have been a wave 2, and this could be the start of a wave 3. But that looks like a nice high volume sell-off. But again, we're holding this trend. So these trades are pretty easy to take in that if you take them, you know, on the trend line, you can just have like a simple invalidation. Whereas if it closes below the trend line, then you get out. But you can take a trade like this all day when you're holding those trends because you've got very simple and easy invalidation. If it breaks below here, you know, you're out for 2.89%, but the upside is that we get that bounce and move to the to the higher levels. Snowed in, you're my Friday night. Hey, cheers to that, man. Hopefully you're drinking. I wish I was a little bit prettier for you, brother. Or woman, I'm not sure who you are. Besides the technical trading aspects, I 100% trust Bitcoin to go to $20,000 this year. Do you trade on on such longer time frames at all, Jacob? So I'm a long-term believer in Bitcoin, but I use short and I use longs to hedge my assets, to lock in USD gains. Like when Bitcoin was at $20,000, I made the recommendation for everybody to sell around 18,005 once that strong parabolic trend line was broken. But you can also take futures shorts just to hedge. You know, lots of different ways you can play it. Is Bitcoin officially out of the macro downtrend channel from 14K, or do you think we still might make new lows? I can't say that we're going to make new lows, but I think that this China pump is probably the invalidation level for me personally. But we are in a very strong uptrend on the low time frames for sure, 100%. This is a incredibly strong trend like that, okay? Especially because we've only tested this once and we're testing the 20 MA and we're not really selling off super hard. So these lights, man, they get to my eyes. Thanks for all you do, friend. What is your best health tip? Well, I ran a wellness center for a long time. for 9 years. So the number one thing is don't eat sugar. Most diseases come from inflammation, and so sugar and dairy are two of the most pro-inflammatory foods. And then drink a lot of water. Hydration is super important. Then 8 hours of sleep and reducing your stress. If you do those 5 things, you'll be super healthy. And obviously exercise. But the real big one is sugar. So pop, soda, stuff like that. Even energy drinks, sugar in your coffee, all that stuff will create mass inflammation, will cause all kinds of problems. Skin problems, digestive problems, mood problems like anxiety, depression, all kinds of stuff. All right. Can you explain hedging with 1x leverage? No, okay, I'll do that, and then I will hop off the live stream. I appreciate you guys. So were you a chiropractor? I was. Well, I still am. I still have my license, but I retired a couple of years ago and have been a full-time trader ever since. Are divergences useful for trend determinations? What do you mean by divergences? Like MACD divergences, RSI divergences, OBV divergences? What are you talking about? Does that include fruits? Yeah, just moderation, man. You can still eat fruits, but just keep them, moderate. All that stuff. Okay, so boom. LB, okay, look up CryptoCred YouTube and go through every video. Yeah, CryptoCred's YouTube series is really, really good. It's a little bit more advanced for people. You got to watch them, a few times. I try and make it a little bit more simple. But his videos are great, and Crown is an amazing trader. A lot of you guys probably know Crown. I fully trust anything Crown puts out. He's a badass trader. XRP. I eat tons of sugar, healthier than ever. Well, that will catch up with you. You're probably young. All right, XRP. Again, we just got rejected off the 200 200 MA daily. Would have been a really great short, down 8% from there. And then we're kind of testing some high time frame resistance here, but this chart is just so shitty, man. I don't like to trade XRP. I don't like to short it. I was during this move right here, I was shorting every freaking pullback. And then this type of market here, I don't know. I don't like to trade it yet. Nothing too exciting. The volumes aren't that great either. Let's see. Hot BTC, ARPA, Go. I was in Go. We hit 2 targets on Go. I think we just got stopped out of that one though. Pearl, Zill, Matic, MFT. Everything else looks okay. I would just wait for this sell-off to happen. Crown is awesome. Thank you. ETH bounce strong off 213.50 on the 1 hour. Did it drop all the way down to 213? Nice. I mean, there's not really much support here that we can really count on. Personally, would be looking at something more like 196 if I was going to re-enter this. I mean, that's the most logical right here. But let's take a look at our moving averages real quick, and then I'm going to pop off, guys. Who was my mentor? I am self-taught, but I learned a lot of my moving average strategies from a guy who used to market make the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So I've tested out a lot of different trading styles. I started trading very young, around 19. I did take one course on options, but it wasn't like technical analysis. It was more like complex options trading strategies like straddles, iron condors, all the different options type strategies. Okay. Okay. So shorting. So there's when you move to cash, that's technically a short. Okay. Because you're moving into cash. It's the same thing as a 1x short. So if you take a 1x short out, it's basically like synthetic cash. So if you're shorting here, as the price moves down, you're going to gain Bitcoin. USD value will stay the same because you're on 1x. So you're gaining Bitcoin, but your USD is basically remaining the same. It's it's essentially a synthetic short, okay? If you're on a 2x, then you're going to be gaining 2x more Bitcoin, and you're going to be hedged net short. So what's interesting in some of the things that I like to do is, let's say if you're playing this ETH play, let's say it comes down to the 100 moving average. So let's say at 160 you get long. But then let's say price gets up to this 195 level and you're like, well, that's a key resistance level. So then what you can do is you can take a short out on futures contracts. So, and you can basically get like perfectly delta neutral or beta neutral. So your portfolio is basically break even. So it's like you're sitting in cash, but you still have a long running and you've got a short running to cover your long position just in case. But that'll allow you to not have to exit this position, because it's much harder to long, and then let's say you've got this short, when it comes down, it's much harder to then try and re-find an entry. So lots of different ways you can play different hedges. Jacob, great, collaborate video with Crown. You guys are the best TA traders on YouTube, hands down. I appreciate that. Will we get 7.5K to buy more Bitcoin? I have no idea. Is Bitcoin officially out of the macro downtrend channel from 14K, or do you feel? I think I already answered that question. Let's see. What exercises should you do with SI joint dysfunction? That's a complicated question. Feel free to text me on Telegram. Please play in your hedging account. Crown's Crypto Cave. Yeah, let me drop a link to Crown's YouTube channel. Yeah, well worth following. I do want to pull him on to my... I do want to do a collaborative on the channel. So that's Crown's channel. What do you think of Uber pump today? Let's take a look. I sold Uber way too early, son of a bitch. Just kidding. All right, so I bought Uber right here when it broke the 20-period moving average. I bought it at like 27 bucks, but I did sell at 30.59. So once we got to the top of this descending broad wedge, and what's funny is I knew this was a freaking descending broad wedge bullish structure. If you guys never descending broad wedge. If you've never traded this, is one of my favorite patterns to trade. Super bullish structures, but it looks something like this, where the top side only makes a little bit of a V shape at the top there. But I had this drawn for Uber, and you can see it did exactly that. Get rid of all this shit here really quick. All right. So you can see we've got this very clear, dynamic, descending broad wedge structure. One of my favorite patterns to trade. It came up, gave us that nice little V, and then it broke up super hard to the upside. So I got out here at 30.5, but it was still a great trade. I think it was like a 300% options trade. So I can be super happy with that. But if I had held it, man, that probably would have been worth probably 300 grand right there. Instead, I just made, pretty bank right there. Okay, cool. Thanks for the video, though. Best contact for Signal Profits questions. Signal Profits support on Telegram. You should have a collaborative episode with Crown soon. Very brave, typing into your search area on live stream. Did I type into my search area? This? Oh. Not sure. Best contact for Signal Group. All right, so if you want to contact Signal Group, just go to signalprofits.com. And then at the bottom corner here, it's got a little chat that pops up. And there's also this email for support at signalprofits.com. Obviously, Signal Profits is my trading community. If you guys aren't familiar with Signal Profits, I can kind of show you what it does and what it is. So there's two services here. So there's margin and there's altcoin. And so you can see at the top here, our TRX trade, we did 77%. Komodo, these were just take profits today to February 7th, February 7th, February 7th, February 6th. Been on quite a tear. So the orange is the margin trades. So we shorted TRX, shorted BCH. I think we made 4% on Litecoin earlier today. So sometimes they're scalps, sometimes they're long trades. ADA, we're still in an ADA trade, but yeah, so for Signal Profits, if you have any questions, we do trade updates quite frequently. We do daily live streams every day for 2 hours where we cover the market from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. for Europeans and then and Australians. And then we do 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. for daily candle closing most other days. And every morning we do these daily market updates where we cover all of the market. We talk about, what we're watching for, possible support resistances, some of the harmonic fractals that we're looking for as far as where we can head to. And then each day you'll get, a comprehensive list of all the supports that we're watching and what they associate with, like the, daily moving average, 200 daily moving average, so that we know, some of the key levels to watch for. And then we also do an overall kind of daily summary of what we look for. So that's pretty much what we do every day. And then we also have a Discord community where we cover altcoins and margin coins and stuff like that. And you can ask questions to my analysts and traders. But yeah, Bitcoin is still dumping. That's good. It's at 9,700. It's not dumping super hard. Did that answer your question, whoever was asking? It would be cool to see the TA behind the different trades for Signal Profits. Looks like you do. Yeah, so if you click on any one of these trades like TRX, you can click on it and you can say expecting a markup for Nitron following ADA price prediction. And we've got this, rising wedge structure. And then so we provide all kinds of different TA. Komodo, same thing. We're super percent, move stop loss. Then we've got a chart kind of showing some of the logic, double bottom structure, broke a key daily resistance, 3-day resistance level. Yeah, so a lot of those. Whoa, started 90 minutes ago. Looks like I got to catch a replay. Yeah, it was a long one, man. We went through a lot of charts, traditional markets, talks about trends, moving averages, key moving averages that we use. Binance leverage trading, anyone using it? We have a lot of members that use Binance margin trading. Is there a trial period with Signal Profits? I was doing trial periods, but I removed trials for now. I wanted to kind of maintain the quality of the group for a little while. I was getting a lot of people that were joining 2-week trials, and yeah. Telegram link, Jacob Camfield, it's not in the description. Okay, let me see. I'll throw that in here really quick. Here it is. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to post this in the link here. Okay, is there anything else you guys want me to cover? We're at 96.98, 96.64 on Bitcoin. It looks like we found our first bounce. I think that was probably the hard moving average on the 30-minute. What was that? 15-minute hourly. No. Oh, the 20-minute on the 4-hour. Nope, we didn't even get to test it yet. So again, we broke down from this little triangle. So a good short zone here, because this 100 moving average was so key, is if we come back up like this to test it like that. So that would be a decent like short confluence around 97.45 with just a nice tight stop above. But if you get short like that, then again we can look to see this 200 EMA possible bounce. So something to watch for. Is it better than Binance and BitMEX? What's the pros? I personally like Bybit because of the liquidity. So I really, really like Bybit, but Binance has a lot of margins that you can, a lot of alts that you can trade. All right, guys, it's been like an hour and 45 minutes. I appreciate you watching so much. And I appreciate you asking questions. Again, this is not an advertisement for my trading community. Right now, I've got enough members. It's not like a huge deal whether you join or not. We've been crushing the market the last 3 months, but This is for you guys. I want to try and bring as much value as possible. I want to really help you guys become better traders, look for better, become more patient. And the most important thing to me is that you guys always manage your risk with everything that you do. So again, if you look at the trends, right? So we had this trend, and once we broke that, you could have entered a nice little scalp short. We lost our 100 moving average on the 30-minute, but the daily, we're still in a strong uptrend because we haven't even tested the 20-period moving average a second time. So even though we're dumping, we can still come down and do something like that, right? But I was personally watching, if you saw my last trading view analysis, this one here, 9,900 to 10,000 are key levels for Bitcoin to break through. I pointed out this rising wedge, the 98.99 structure was the 61.8 of the overall structure, okay, of the 20,000 all the way down to 3,200. Okay, that's my Fibonacci levels. And so we're in this rising wedge structure. The RSI was at 70. And so you can see we're actually rejecting right off of that level that I highlighted here. And so the time that you'll get confirmation is if this rising wedge breaks. And if this rising wedge breaks, then we can probably start to look much lower down. But this 9,100 level is very, very, very key because this was the resistance or this was the support for that descending triangle level. But the other thing to watch for was the funding rates. This whole analysis was kind of highlighting, why Bitcoin might need to cool off a little bit. But so every time the funding rate gets super high like this, spiked, we tend to see a little bit of a sell-off. Like you could see back here, we saw that sell-off like that. Saw this sell-off, like all the way through here. So we saw this sell-off, and then funding rates got a bit high again. So just something to watch out for. And the other thing was, I posted this. This could possibly be a leading diagonal, which is an Elliott wave, impulse wave to start a bull market rally. So it can be a 5-wave structure for wave 1, and then wave 2 usually comes down and matches the wave 4, the fourth wave of the 5-wave structure on the way up. So if we look at this again, so we've got the 5-wave structure up. 3, wave 4, wave 5, it's possible that we come all the way back down to 8,300, which would be a nice test of the 200 EMA one more time. So lots of different possibilities. Again, you really need to play it level by level, and just don't get too ahead of yourselves. The market is showing a lot of strength right now, so it's better to look for longs than it is to shorts. If you're going to short, I would say just take out hedges. Don't go high leverage or high position sizes or anything like that. So, all right, guys, I appreciate you watching. I think there was about 300 to 400 people at one time. I didn't see the full stats on that, but looks like we've got about 182 likes so far. Man, you guys are awesome. Thank you for watching. Hope all your trades crush, and I will see you guys on the next webinar, but I will be posting those videos every day. So take care, guys, and I will see you soon. And make sure you join in my channel.